Lawrence and Brandon Cooks. The good news, however, bro, Dak is hitting his stride after a little four-game warm-up. Take a listen.
Okay.
Playing solid football. I think if you broke down all 4 games, there's a play or two, a couple plays within that I want back, that I could do this, I could do that. It's a little bit of, guarding against trying to do more, as you asked me earlier. But I can tell you my best is damn sure I'm on the brink of it, and I feel like I'm stepping into that.
Okay, Brew. More likely for Dallas, an A game or an F game?
This is easy. F game.
There is no A game coming without Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence. A game coming? No, F game. Mark it down.
Okay.
All right, F game.
F.
They are facing, Nick, one of the best defenses in the league, maybe the best, with no run game. You don't think Mike Tomlin, who everybody thinks is a great coach except Wilds, who just was taking shots at him a little while ago, you don't think he can figure out how to stop an offense that the quarterback's going to have to throw 40 times, and we know who you're throwing to. Brandon Cooks, not that he's been great, but he's not even playing. Wow. It's going to be all CD Lamb all the time. And then, of course, the Cowboys' Achilles heel. I know Nick thinks they fixed it, but they can't stop the run. The Steelers run the ball as much as anybody else. They are tied for first with rush attempts, 138. Guess who the 2 teams they're tied with?
Baltimore?
Baltimore and New Orleans.
Yeah.
And we know what they did to the Cowboys. Now, the Steelers' run game isn't as good as those 2, but it's good enough. And so I see an F game coming. I see an L coming for the Cowboys.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't he also say he didn't have to be Superman? And that was another one of his quotes. He's going to have to be. He's going to have to be all the Avengers in order for them to be successful. Because when you look at it, his numbers are actually down from last year in terms of his quarterback rating and his touchdown percentage. So that's a problem. But what number that's up is he's getting sacked at the 2nd highest rate of his career, which is problematic as well. So now everybody knows you really can only throw the ball because you don't have a consistent, viable, threatening option to run the ball. They know who you have to throw the ball to, what, 70% of the time, 65, 70% of the time. So that's not gonna fool anybody. So now you've got to try to figure it out on how to beat a really good defense when they know it couldn't be any clearer in terms of what your path is to be successful. That's hard.
It's very hard, and it's why a win would by definition be an A game. Because of everything you guys said.
A win would be an A game.
Right. So that's why I think it's more likely they have an A game. Because I think they are going to win this weekend. I think that this is because of everything Bruce said. This would be a not definitional Dak game, but a real moment for Dak and CD Lamb this year. Because everybody knows that is the path they have to win this game, and a real building block moment for their season with the hope and belief of we are getting Micah back at some point, we are getting DeMarcus Lawrence back at some point. So the reason I think Dallas can do it is I don't think Pittsburgh's offense is that scary at all.
No.
Justin Fields, by the way, has played well this year, and I give him credit.
Well, I think that's the real risk is if Justin Fields goes back to what Justin Fields
the read option stuff that what Lamar did.
No, not that. I'm saying that if the turnover, and Dallas has historically done a really good job of turning the ball over, and they got a lot of guys that can do that, especially in the secondary. That, to me, gives them their best chance of success.
So, I think Dak can play great, and I think they can win this game. I think that it's probably obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. You have to basically double-team T.J. Watt every snap. And I know that takes a lot of your variability of your playbook out, but you have either a rookie left tackle or a right tackle who can get overmatched depending on where TJ is lined up. And so whether it's chipping him or double teaming him, you're going to have to do that. If they do that, I think Dallas can get to 20 points. And I think that could be enough to win this game.
The Deuce Vaughn, TJ Watt chip block.
Yeah, well, that would. I wouldn't have Deuce Vaughn in there chip blocking him.
You think he'll
I would.
All right. Let's talk about this game. Okay. First off, if Nick doesn't think that the offense is very good, right, with Justin Fields and all of that, then why would beating them be that impressive? Since when is it impressive to beat a team that doesn't have a really good offense. Like, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So this is the way I look at it, is I don't really know who the Pittsburgh Steelers are. I think Justin Fields is still a question mark because people talk about Sam Darnold being on pumpkin watch and things of that nature. And even the Saints, when they got off to their hot start. And so then why is Justin Fields not on pumpkin watch in that offense, right? Like that's a real, legitimate, genuine concern. So that's where I'm kind of like, well, this all depends on who the Steelers are. And their defense, which I assume it's a pretty good defense. So I think it's the best in the league. I think that's probably a little extreme. There's no real true evidence for that, mainly because of who they played, right? They played a weird week 1 game against the Atlanta Falcons, right? That was Kirk Cousins like could not move, right? And that wasn't just because of the amazing defense by the Steelers. It really wasn't. Whether you're a Steelers fan or not, that's just the reality. Right, and then they went on and played other teams that weren't ready to like set the league on fire here, right? Injured Justin Herbert. I already went through all this before, and so I don't want to rehash it. But it's just we need more evidence to know how good this defense is. But I will say this: the defense is obviously competent. The defense is obviously not awful, and so Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb should be enough. You got an O-line. You got Dak Prescott. You got a semblance of a run game, and you got CD. You paid Dak more money than ever spent in the history of the NFL. So you better play like it. Right? Like you better play like it. If you're going to command that contract, especially because Dak has failed in these very situations more than he's succeeded, quite frankly. So that's why I'm really interested to see. I give the benefit of the doubt to people who are missing weapons, although he has his number one weapon. He has CD, right? He's got that weapon. And again, everyone tells me that he is a top 2 quarterback, top 3 quarterback. Well, then he needs to play like one more often than not. I give Patrick Mahomes the benefit of doubt, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow if they're down their weapons, right? When Joe Burrow didn't have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I'm not expecting him to be able to be as great as he can be. It's really difficult to do that, right? Brock Purdy's missing, Debo, Kittle. It's like, okay, well, I'm only expecting you to be so great when you're down all of these receivers. So I would give that benefit to Dak Prescott within reason, though. Mainly because I have so many Cowboys fans saying he's the best. Don't make excuses for Brock Purdy. Don't make excuses for Jalen Hurts. Don't make excuses for blank and blank and blank. So again, so then there would be no excuses for Dak Prescott under this circumstance. So that's what I want to see. Not to mention, people keep telling me that Dak Prescott is better than those quarterbacks. So again, I don't expect Dak to succeed in this type of situation game after game after game, no matter how good he is, whether it was Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. But if you're that great, then you're expected to be able to overcome this type of situation more often than not. That's the difference. More often than not. Not every time. More often than not is the key. And the reality is, historically, Dak Prescott has not overcome this situation more often than not. So here's a situation to start to put that more in balance. He said, I'm on the brink of playing my best football. So then prove it. If he does, I'll be impressed. If Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys win this game with a great game from Justin Fields, and that defense ages properly, where we look back on this season and say, oh yeah, that was definitely a really great defense. That was a top defense. That was a top 5, top 6, top 8 defense. Then I'll be like, yeah, that was really impressive. That was an impressive win by Dak. He moved up a notch in my book. If he does those things more regularly, he will keep moving up. But if he loses, it's not anything extra. It's not anything like, oh, I learned something new about Dak. I learned something new about the Cowboys. So to me, what makes this harder to evaluate, again, is who are the Steelers? Because let's not pretend like the Steelers have been this juggernaut for years and years and years, right? Like that's not who the reality of this team. I know they got off to a pretty good start, but again, injured Justin Herbert, rookie Bo Nix, first game of Kirk Cousins playing after his torn Achilles, after a really, really extended, long layoff from not only offseason, but obviously being injured in the middle of last season. He was not playing. That Falcons team was not playing like they played the other night versus the Buccaneers. Clearly, it took them a few games to kind of get rolling. So that's why it's going to be, that's why it's always fun to look back at some of these games when, you think a team is really not that good, or you think a team is better than they were. And then it's not until near the end of the season when you were like, well, actually, I thought that was an easy game for them to win, but it turned out that team was actually pretty good. Or, well, were they pretty good, or were they bad at the time, and then they kind of got some momentum going, they kind of figured some stuff out. To me, that's what's always fun to try to figure this out. My gut tells me that this Steelers defense is pretty legit. It's hard for me to imagine that this Steelers defense is not top 10. That's just my gut feeling. The offense, on the other hand, I mean, I'm not 100% sold on who Justin Fields is, quite frankly. I mean, Justin Fields didn't all of a sudden, become a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I think statistically right now, all of his numbers put him in top 10. So it's like, just like how a lot of people are suspicious of Sam Darnold, what Sam Darnold's doing, and what Derek Carr was doing, it's only right that you're going to be suspicious of what Justin Fields is doing. So that's why I think really you can sum up my thoughts on this really right here. It's, if this Steelers defense ends up still continuing to be legit, and Justin Fields proves to continue to, he plays a really good game. He doesn't have to be like a top 5 quarterback, but he just plays a really good game, right? And the Cowboys still win this game, then that would be more impressive than not, for sure. But if they win in a way where, like, right, Justin Fields is turning the ball over and he's fumbling snaps as he often does, right? And this defense is not really looking too good because they did just give up a whole bunch of points to Joe Flacco and the Colts, right? So then it starts to change the story. But I'm actually really, really excited for this game. It's interesting that the Steelers are favored 2.5, because I assume that means if Micah was still there, as well as any of the other cast of characters, that they would be favored to win this game on the road. So that speaks volumes when you really think about it. That really thinks that just goes to show you that Vegas is not really that high on the Pittsburgh Steelers. They don't really think that the Steelers are that good, because if you think about it, some of the pieces that the Cowboys are missing, the Steelers should be favored by more. Right now, the 49ers are favored by like 7.5 points versus the Cardinals. Okay, to put that in perspective, the Steelers are at home. So again, we know Micah and a couple of the other guys are worth at least a couple points. So it goes to show you, because I know Vegas isn't super high on the Cowboys either, right? They're actually not. So it just goes to show you that Vegas is not super high on the Steelers. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's because of defense, because of Justin Fields, what really the story is with that one. But either way, this game should be pretty entertaining. It should hopefully be a lot more interesting than the last game the Cowboys played versus the Giants, which was just absolutely brutal, especially after our last standalone game Thursday night was so fun, so exciting, just really, really interesting stuff. So this will be our next standalone game, and so I'm definitely really excited for this. And I'm excited to see if Dak is truly on the brink of playing his best football. That is what I'm truly excited to see. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? What's more likely for Dallas, an A game or an F game? And can they play an A game but still lose? And can they play an F game and still win? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.